Uh, Okay, so good afternoon to all of you. Now let's start the remaining portion of testing the agile-based software. Last class almost we have discussed regarding the development of agile-based applications or agile-based software. We have taken one particular methodology, that is Scrum. Similarly, other methodologies are available like extreme programming, Lean, DSDM, etc. I have given what for extreme programming, these slides also I have uploaded. We are running out of time, so I request you please read yourself. This will be very much helpful for your campus interview point of view as well as for your industrial life point of view. So let's first start with the agile testing lifecycle. Just like every software development has a lifecycle called a software development lifecycle, every testing methodology also have a lifecycle called a testing lifecycle. Similarly, for agile software, here we will call it as my agile testing lifecycle. So this life cycle is based on the principle more is less. We'll see what is more is less. So this principle focuses on communication management among stakeholders. I have already told you in Agile, one of the important principle is that do less documentation, emphasize on more face-to-face communication. So this testing cycle is based on the more is less principle. The adoption of this principle results in good quality software product. And this principle more is less I am showing in the next figure. Okay, let's see what is this more is less. So more is less principle says that if you are having more interaction, close interaction among the team members, stakeholders, then obviously you will get less doubts regarding your software, regarding your system. And if you are having less doubts, obviously you will give more focus on your software development. And if you are giving more focus on software development, more focus on testing, then obviously you will get less defects. And less defects means again it will lead to what? More interactions. You can get sufficient time to have more interaction among the team members or among the stakeholders. So this is how the more is less principle works. The agile software testing lifecycle is based on this more is less principle. Okay, that's what I have already told you, that if the communication between the tester and other stakeholder is very frequent and effective, then obviously there would be very less doubts, few doubts, and there will be more clarity. This more is less principle ensures that the testing activities along with the effective communication and collaboration among different major stakeholders could be business analyst, market evaluator, customer, developer, etc. So it will result in software products having only few defects and hence the quality will be improved. Okay. So this more is less principle ensures that the testing activities along with effective communication and collaboration among the different major stakeholders, it results in it results in the software products having only few defects and having good quality. This is the principle, more is less principle, that I have already explained to you. Now we'll go to the agile testing life cycle. With this much knowledge, now let's go to the agile testing life cycle. So please try to understand. So we have represented the life cycle in the form of a figure. Here tester plays the major important role. He performs also the traditional testing techniques such as unit testing, functional testing, integrated testing, other techniques such as regression testing and system testing, etc. So this tester, he collaborates with two important circles. The tester collaborates and communicates with an outer circle as well as the inner circle. In outer circle, who are there? In the outer circle, the outer circle deals with T for this, what you can say. I think let's see the terminology I have written TCMS. T stands for the technology, C stands for the competitor, MS stands for the market standard. So while the tester, he collaborates with what the others. I'll see the tester mainly collaborate or he makes communication in two circles, outer circle and the inner circle. And if you see the outer circle deals with the technology, isn't it? T stands for technology, competitor, and market standards. So when the tester, he will interact with, so two important things you can see: customer and market evaluator. Market standard means we have to interact with the customer and market evaluator. So So at the outer circle level, the tester will collaborate and communicate with the customer and market evaluator. Okay, and he will prepare the user story. What is a user story? I have already told you. It's the simplest form of use cases. So the tester will develop the user story in collaboration with the customer and market evaluator. Also, he may collaborate with the product owner while developing the user story. Then from the user story, the tester will derive the ready story. Ready story what? Ready story it is a checklist you can see which you have to use maybe at the time of acceptance testing or so. So we'll discuss all those things. So from the user story, this tester will derive this ready story, and by that time also the tester will collaborate with the customer, the market evaluator, as well as the product owner. And in order to get the ready story, or while getting the ready story, or to get the ready story, or in order to get the ready story, he has to perform two testing techniques. Okay, in order to get the ready story from the user story, he has to perform two testing techniques: acceptance testing. It stands for acceptance testing, and it stands for this exploratory testing. I will discuss acceptance testing. Already you have seen earlier. Exploratory testing means, as its name suggests, exploratory testing. You have to explore all the possibilities. You have to explore all the scenarios through testing, which may be possible during your experiment or during your testing. So by performing, while finding the, or while determining the ready storage from the user storage, he has to perform two testings: acceptance testing and exploratory testing. Then what will happen? You can see the tester is collaborating with the inner circle. Inner circle deals with two things: AT and P. So AT stands for the automated tools and P for patterns. Several automated tools you have known, also we have practiced in the lab class, and various case tools you can use. And P for patterns, different design patterns, different test patterns we have already told you earlier. So this tester may use different automated tools and patterns, and this is internal. This is during the inner circle. And in the inner circle, the tester will interact with the product owner and the team, and then the tester will perform what? Regression testing. He will perform regression testing with the help of the product owner and team, and by this time he will consider the ready story for performing regression testing. So during regression testing, after regression testing, he may conduct the unit testing, function testing, functional testing, and integrated testing. And this unit testing is a special kind of white box testing, we can say. This is called as a TDD. TDD stands for test driven development. First we have to design the test cases. So here more importance is on test cases. I will show a few slides on the TDD, and then you can use different test case management techniques. We have discussed different test case management techniques such as test case optimization, test case prioritization. So those techniques they can use, and finally he will complete the work. He will get his job done. Finally, definition of done will be marked. So in this way, the agile testing life cycle it works. You can see while the tester communicates or collaborates with the outer circle and inner circle, he is also using the traditional techniques as well as the agile testing techniques, and then he can interact or collaborate and communicate. He can interact, collaborate and communicate with the outer circle and the inner circle. This is how the agile testing life cycle works. Let's go in detail. These are the terminologies you are using. So very easy, you can see yourself. I have already told you that an agile tester, he interacts and collaborates with the two circles, namely the outer circle and inner circle. I have already shown in the figure. This is the outer circle and this is the inner circle. The outer circle is connected to the outside world, very simple. And in the outer circle, the tester collaborates with whom? Two important stakeholders, customers and market evaluators. See, in the outer circle, he interacts with the customer and the market evaluator. Then the tester converts the informal requirements into a formal set of requirements known as user story, isn't it? So the tester, he will convert the informal requirements. Maybe you have written in the SRS document or so, then you will convert the informal requirements into a formal set of requirements known as the user story. See here, so this tester will convert all those, he will interact with the customer and market evaluator, and he will convert the informal requirements to a formal set of requirements known as the user story. By that time, again, he may take the help of the product owner. Then the tester converts the user story into a ready story. I have shown you. Finally, he will convert the user story into the ready story. So what is the ready story? The ready story, it acts like a checklist at the time of verification or acceptance of the user story by the customer. So you can consider as a checklist. The ready story, it acts like a checklist at the time of verification or acceptance of the user story by the customer. This ready story is the outcome of performing two types of testing, isn't it? You can see this ready story is the outcome of performing two types of testing. One is acceptance testing, one is exploratory testing. Acceptance testing we have already discussed earlier, no need to discuss. What is exploratory testing? Let's have a quick look. As I have already told you, as the name suggests, exploratory testing, it is the process of testing in which different possibilities or different scenarios, they are explored or they are considered as per the market analysis performed by the market evaluators, having the positive and the negative limitations. Okay, so basically, as its name suggests, exploratory testing, it is the testing process in which you have to explore all the possibilities of the scenarios, and this exploration can be done as per the market analysis, which can be performed by the market evaluators having positive and negative limitations. At the same time, the risk of the user story may also be identified so that the effort estimation may be more accurate in terms of effort required, complexity, and time. What is acceptance testing? We have already told you earlier, so no need to repeat again. So just quickly let us brush up your memory. Acceptance testing, acceptance testing performed by a tester, it sets the acceptance criteria for a user query. We have already discussed what are the, in the alpha testing, what are the criteria, beta testing, what are the criteria, acceptance testing, what are the criteria, we have already discussed earlier. So acceptance testing performed by a tester sets the acceptance criteria for a user story. These criteria, they are also known as what verification points, okay, which are needed to set the complexity level of the user story. How far the user story is complex, how much the user story is complex. So these these criteria, which are known as also verification points, they are needed to set the complexity level of the user story, and these verification points are then deeply analyzed. As a tester, you have to analyze deeply these verification points. So one spelling mistake, also known as, okay, so in this case also the tester, he does not work in isolation, and rather he collaborates with whom? The product owner, to finalize the acceptance criteria of the user story. How you can finalize the acceptance criteria? You can see is not staying alone. The tester also collaborate with what? The product owner. In order to finalize the ready story from the user story, the tester, he also works with the product owners. Okay. At the same, okay. In this case also, the tester does not work in isolation, and rather he collaborates with the product owner in order to finalize the acceptance criteria of the user story. Now let's come to the inner circle what portion. In the inner circle, the tester collaborates with whom? The team members and the product owners. See? So during this In the inner circle level, the tester collaborates with two important stakeholders, the team members as well as the product owner. In the inner circle, the tester collaborates with the team members and the product owner. In agile testing, what happens? Regression testing is also very important. Just like in the traditional testing, anytime you are making some change or you are making some new additions, you have to perform regression testing. Similarly, regression testing also has to be performed in development of agile software. So in agile software development, regression testing is very much important, as agile is based on what responding to change rather than following a fixed plan. In classical waterfall model, etc., what we are doing, we are following a fixed rigid plan. But in agile, anytime any change can be accommodated, excepting during the sprint. So since in agile we are allowing changes at almost all the times, so that's why anytime you are making a change, you have to perform regression testing. So regression testing is very much important in agile software development. So regression testing is an ongoing activity in agile. It's not a one-time activity. Anytime, whenever you are making a change, you have to perform regression testing. So regression testing is an ongoing activity in agile software development. After looking at the verification points of the user story, the tester starts with writing the failed test cases. So what we'll see, after looking at the verification point of the user story, the tester starts with writing the failed test cases. Let's see. Now the user story is completed. Then from the user story, we are getting the ready story by following acceptance testing and exploratory testing. And then this ready story will be supplied as the input for performing regression testing. Again, regression testing will be performed by the tester in collaboration with the product owner and the team members. So now let's see. During regression testing, what other things can be done? So we have to perform unit testing, functional testing, and IT integration testing. This unit testing is a special kind of unit testing. It is known as TDD, called as test-driven development. Let's see what is this test-driven. After looking at the verification points of the user story, the tester starts with writing, or this tester starts performing unit testing. How the tester starts the unit testing? The tester starts with writing first the failed test cases. The tester will start first writing the failed test cases. Then for any user story of the sprint, test cases are designed by the tester, of course, using test-driven development or TDD approach. In TDD approach, what is performed? Don't first develop the code. Start writing the test case directly and try to get what the test case is failed. So in this test-driven approach, what happens? It means failed test cases are written first for the upcoming user story. So which I have already told you, use story means the use cases, the requirements you can say. So you have to start with writing failed test cases. So in test-driven development approach, first failed test, the test cases are written in such a way that they will be failed, and these failed test cases are written for the upcoming user stories. Now let's give a simple glimpse at the test-driven development. Very important. Several times it is asked. Okay. So the rhythm of TDD is test, code, and refactor. First you design a test case, then you go for the coding, and based on this testing results, you refactor your code, you restructure your code. So first you write a test case, that means add a test case. Then you run the test case. What is the objective? Your objective is to make the test case fail. So if it is passed, what you do? Again you write another test case, because objective is to get a failed test case. The test case has to be failed. So if it is passed, go back, add another test case or modify the test case. Now if it is failed, this is okay. So what you do? Now again, if it is passed, add a test case, then you run the test case, then whatever you, suppose you have got failed. Now what you have to do? If it is failed, then you make a little change, maybe to your test case. Make a little change this test case. Then again run the test case. Again there are two possibilities. Either it will fail or it will pass. If it is fail, then again make a little bit change to a test case, then you run the test case. Suppose now you have got pass. Then if it is pass, okay, then you are satisfied, then you refactor or restructure the code, okay, and this process will be continued, and this process can be continued for all the cases or for all the scenario. This is what is meant by the test-driven development, where the process is started by writing first the test cases, I mean the failed test cases, and then the code is developed. In other type of white box testing, first you are writing the code, then you are designing the test cases. Okay, so here since you know the user stories, based on the user stories, you can write down the test cases even if writing the code. So this is how the test-driven development works. Now let us go back to our agile testing lifecycle where we have left. We have left at this point that during this regression testing you have to conduct, or after this regression testing you have to conduct this unit testing, which is based on test-driven development approach. You have to also conduct the functional testing as well as the integration testing. Then you have to carry out what? The test case management approaches you have follow. Different test case management approaches are, for example, test suite optimization, test suite prioritization. These are different efficient test case management techniques. You perform that, and finally you declare definition of done. Okay, finally you declare definition of done. That's what I say here. Using this test-driven development approach, the developers try to convert the failed test cases into pass test cases. This test-driven development approach, it may be implemented in a pair programming style. In pair programming style, you do know pairwise programming. Pairwise programming means two employees will be hired. One is a coding specialist, another is a testing specialist. So one will do the coding part and will do the testing part. Then their roles will be swapped. The coder will be do, because see, once you have committed a mistake, the same person cannot detect the errors. So now the role is changed. The coder will do the testing activity and the tester will do the coding activity. This is known as pairwise programming. So this TDD approach may be implemented in a pair programming style, in which first on a single terminal the failed test case is written, after which the code is written by the developer. So in TDD approach, first you have to write down the failed test cases, then what the code will be written. So the test cases will be developed by the tester, code will be developed by the coder. Then the role can be swapped. This practice helps in getting immediate feedback so as to embed the quality in the final deliverable. Okay, so this is how the agile testing life cycle works. Let's see if anything is left. So unit tests for any user story are written by extracting support from automated tools. What automated tools are there? Several automated tools are there. Like we have those who have attended our lab classes, they might have seen use of Eclipse for Java applications. JUnit, here it is XUnit written, but I think we have practiced for our students in lab class JUnit for the web-based applications, etc. Isn't it? So this I have already, and this here I have already told you that you can use. At the inner circle level, you can use automated tools and patterns. Automated tools, many automated tools are there. For example, here I have told Eclipse, JUnit, Jumble, etc. Similarly, different testing patterns you can use. We have already, I have already told you so many testing patterns in one of the class, and one testing pattern that is based on use case we have completely discussed in the last class. Okay, so those things we use in the inner circle level. We use the automated testing tools as well as the patterns. It helps in reducing the overall time for any sprint. So if you will use the automated tools, this helps in reducing the overall time for any sprint. In addition, you can also use patterns. Several patterns we have discussed. Those patterns you can use also. In addition, the patterns may also be utilized so as to handle an existing problem. with the best evolved solution. So you try to use the patterns. During the sprint we have already discussed in the last class while discussing Scrum. During the sprint, integration testing is also performed among the different user stories of a sprint by considering dependencies among the user stories. You have to also perform integration testing that we have discussed here. Moreover, the integration testing is also performed among the user stories of different sprints. So you can perform the integration testing among the user stories of a particular sprint. You can also perform integration testing among the user stories of different sprints. So that means after performing this regression testing, you can also perform this unit testing and this functional testing, integration testing. This will be in a loop. Okay. Further, to manage the test cases efficiently, effective regression techniques such as regression test selection, test case prioritization, test case optimization, they are also implemented to run only a subset of the test cases out of all the test cases that I have already told you. Finally, you have to declare definition of done. Finally, definition of done is declared by the customer after matching the verification points of the ready story with the actual product. If they are properly matching, declare definition of done. All right. So this is how the agile testing lifecycle it works. In the example, in the examination, similar types of questions might be asked. You may be asked, explain agile testing lifecycle through a figure by explaining all the components like that. So please prepare accordingly. Now we'll see one example, at least one category will take. I have told there are different agile methodologies such as Scrum, sprint programming, DSDM, Lean, etc. We have taken Scrum in the last class, so let's again take this Scrum in order to explain the concept of testing. How does it occur in Scrum? Scrum methodology, basically it is based upon small duration sprints, maybe having 1 month duration, having small number of user stories, very few, listed in the sprint backlog. We have already seen there are two important kind of backlogs in Scrum. One is product backlog, another is sprint backlog. Okay, so those things I have already told you. I have also told that sprint backlog, it is a subset of the product backlog. Scrum methodology is based upon small duration sprints, maybe of 1 month duration each, having small number of user stories, which are listed in the sprint backlog, which is a subset of the product backlog list. So testing in Scrum occurs, it is divided into 3 phases called this pre-execution phase, then execution phase, and post-execution phase. First, let's start with the pre-execution phase. So in pre-execution phase, what is happening? Here all the testing activities occurring before, within, and after the sprint have been identified. Okay. So first, what we will do that we are discussing about testing in Scrum. In testing in Scrum, what we are doing? Here all the testing activities which are occurring before, within, and after the sprint, they have been identified. To explain this concept, we have taken a very simple example. Here for simplicity, we have considered only 3 sprints, that is S1, S2, S3. They are taken in the sprint flow diagram having 3 phases. So we have taken a sprint flow diagram having the 3 phases: pre-execution, execution, and execution. And in order to make our discussion simple, we have taken 3 sprints, namely S1, S2, S3. The duration of execution of these sprints is W1, W2, W3 respectively, where W stands for the week. That means for Spring 1, the duration is W1 weeks. Spring 2, the duration of execution is W2 weeks. And for Spring 3, the duration of execution is W3 weeks. So now in the execution phase, what is happening? In the execution phase, a sprint S1 may be completed having n number of user stories from SBL1. So during the execution, what happened? So one sprint, some of the user stories will be executed. Let's assume that a sprint S1, it can be completed having n number of user stories from where? From the sprint backlog 1. So I have taken 3 sprint backlogs. Okay, I have taken 3 sprints. Accordingly, we have taken 3 sprint backlogs: SBL1, SBL2, and SBL3. Similarly, this sprint 2, sprint 2, it can be completed having m number of user stories which are taken from the second sprint backlog, that is sprint backlog 2. Now let's see, this is the testing scenario in pre-execution phase. Here the tester, in my previous diagram I have already told you at the at the outer level the tester collaborates with the 2 important stakeholders. They are the customer and the market evaluator. As well as while he will prepare the user story, he has to interact with the product owner. So the tester collaborates and communicates with the customer, market evaluator, and the product owner, and then he prepares the user story. Then he applies acceptance testing and exploratory testing on the user story so that he can get the ready story or the product backlog list. So after performing acceptance testing and exploratory testing, he gets or he prepares or he develops the ready story, which is otherwise known as the product backlog list or PBL. This happens during the pre-execution phase. So this phase starts with collaboration among the customer, market evaluator, product owner, and tester. This I have already explained you. They sit together to finalize the user story and then perform acceptance testing and exploratory testing in order to obtain the ready story. The ready story is based upon the confirming points, which are as per the market standard, technology, and competitors' product features. These confirming points, they are also known as acceptance criteria. So here I have already told you, the ready story is based upon the confirming points, which are as per the market standard, technology, and competitors' product features. Okay, these confirming points are known as, I think, acceptance points or verification points. These confirming points are also known as acceptance criteria. Okay, acceptance criteria, or you can say verification points. The acceptance criteria has already been also discussed while discussing the Agile software testing lifecycle. During the sprint, the acceptance criteria are frequently checked. Okay, so during each sprint, the acceptance criteria are frequently checked. In addition, the tester he performs exploratory testing. I have already told you 2 types of testings are performed there: acceptance testing and exploratory testing. In addition to conducting acceptance testing, the tester performs exploratory testing so as to check the feasibility of the various scenarios. To explore the possible or the various scenarios, the tester also has to perform exploratory testing. After finalizing the ready story, so the final outcome is the ready story or the product backlog list. After finalizing the ready story and the user story, a list is prepared having all the finalized set of user stories. This list is known as PBL or product backlog list, which becomes the input for the second phase, that is the execution phase. Now let's look at the execution phase, what is happening. So now the outcome of pre-execution phase is PBL or product backlog list. This outcome product backlog list becomes the input for the next phase, that is the execution phase. This is the test scenario in execution phase. I have already told you product backlog list becomes the input for this phase. So this product backlog list, from this product backlog list, I have taken 2 subsets. Those are 2 spring backlog list. One is spring backlog list 1, another is spring backlog list 2. Then on spring backlog list 1, I have applied sprint 1. On sprint backlog 2, I have applied sprint 2. That means to sprint 1, SBL1 becomes the input. To sprint 2, SBL2 becomes to the input. So during this sprint, what activities you will carry out? During each sprint, you have to carry out regression testing, unit testing, function testing, and then this you can say regression testing. We have already told integration testing, etc. Similar testing activities are also performed during sprint 2. So what is the output of this sprint 1? It is a setup, what you can say, user storage. It is a setup user storage. We get IT1, and for the output, or the output of sprint 2 becomes IT2 again, which is a set of another, or this is another set of this is another integrated set of user storage, IT2. So they are combined, IT1 and I2, they are combined. So they become SBL3, or the sprint backlog 3. So besides some after these sprints are over, sprint 1 and sprint 2, some other user stories might be required. So IT3 is there. So now we are having the outcome of this execution phase is SBL3, which contains two integrated sets of user storage, IT1 and IT2, and an additional, maybe an additional set of an additional integrated set of user storage called as IT3. So this will become input to the next phase, that is the post execution phase. So this what I have told here from this figure, this we have explained here, that is after receiving input from pre-execution phase, the execution phase starts. We have shown it in the figure. Then so figure 8. Okay, figure 8, it should not be figure 8, just in the figure. Figure 8 in the book. So this product backlog list is analyzed by whom? It is analyzed by the product owner, and the effort estimation is carried out for selecting the user storage for SBL1 and SBL2. You can see two user storage you have got here. From SBL1 and SBL2, you apply on them, you apply the estimation techniques, etc. So PBL is analyzed by the product owner, and the effort estimation is done for selecting the user storage. That means the subsets of the subsets of the user storage present in this PBL. So we will get two subsets, SBL1 and SBL2. So PBL is analyzed by the product owner, and the effort estimation is done for selecting the user storage for SBL1 and SBL2. SBL1 and SBL2 are executed in sprint S1 and S2 respectively. Okay, so SBL1 and SBL2, they are executed in where? They are executed in sprint S1 and sprint S2 respectively. That means SBL1, sprint backlog 1, is executed in sprint S1, and sprint backlog 2 is executed in sprint S2. In sprint 1, the tester performs unit testing with TDD approach, or white box testing, functional testing, or black box testing, regression testing, integration testing, among the dependent user stories, and many more testing techniques depending on the requirements of the customer. This we have already told you. In S1, you can see, you can apply, you can the tester performs regression testing, unit testing, functional testing, and maybe you can perform also black box testing. These testing techniques you have to perform. Also integration testing you have to perform. Okay. Now let's see what is the output of sprint S1. The output of sprint S1 is an integrated set of user stories. We call it as IT1, with regression test suite during W1 duration. So from this, so during this W1 duration, here also you have performed regression testing. The output is IT1, which is an integrated set of user stories. Similarly, for sprint S2, during the duration W2, you get another subset of integrated subset, or another subset of integrated user storage we call as IT2. So IT1, IT2, they will be combined, and we will get SBL3, sprint backlog 3. This I have already told you. The output of S1 is an integrated set of user stories, IT1, with regression test 2 during W1 duration. Similarly, in sprint 2, the same types of testing are performed, such as this white box testing or unit testing with Tdd approach, regression testing, functional testing, integration testing. You have to apply. Okay. Similarly, in sprint test 2, the same types of testing are performed, and an integrated set of user stories IT2 with regression test 2 during W2 duration you obtain. So the outcome here is S1 and S2. So here also an integrated set of user stories named as IT2 that is obtained. So what is the output here? We have got IT1 and IT2. Besides that, you may require some additional user storage which you can call as IT3. That I have mentioned here. Further, these integrated set of user storage IT1 and IT2, they are combined under, they are considered as user storage in SBL3. Further, there may be some other user storage which may be needed, which need to be developed in W3 duration, which are newly added features, which are the new features in the maintenance time of the product. Let us call them as IT3. So SBL3 is the output. So now we have two outputs in execution phase. SBL3 where we got IT1 and IT2. Besides that, some additional user storage you might require in W3 duration, that is IT3. So the two outputs we got, SBL3 and IT3. So that becomes the output of execution phase, and hence they become the input for the next phase. So SBL3 as well as what you can say this IT3, they become the input for the post execution phase. So you see what I have done in the sprint backlog logs 3. Initially IT1, IT2 we have got here, and then we have added IT3. These are extra, maybe additionally required. So that we have put IT3. So now that will become the input for the next phase, that is the post execution phase. And what is the sprint now we are going? Sprint S3. So okay, so now we are conducting this sprint S3 here, and for the sprint S3 the duration is W3, and you may carry out regression testing again, integration testing, system testing, performance testing, usability testing, compatibility testing, security testing, maintenance testing, so many non-functional testings, you know, so they may be performed. So these testings may be performed as per the customer's requirement. Okay, so this is how this post execution phase it works in Scrum. Whatever I have told, I have explained here. In post execution phase, the user storage is selected from SBL3 based on the priority which is set by the customer, complexity level, risk level, or any other prioritization factor. You take some characteristic, criteria based on which you can give the priorities. In post execution phase, okay, so now we are completing this testing scenario in the post execution phase. So in post execution phase, the user storage are selected from this sprint backlog 3 based on the priority which is set by the customer, and complexity level and risk level or any other prioritization factor. Various types of testing that are performed in sprint 3 are integration of IT1 and IT2. You have to integrate IT1 and IT2, then you have to perform functional testing, system testing, regression testing, depending on the modifications suggested by the customer, if any. So these are the testing techniques performed during post-execution phase. Okay, so this is how this agile testing happens in different Scrum phases. Okay. Other optional testing techniques that may be performed in W3 duration are these non-performance or non-functional testing that we have seen earlier, such as compatibility testing, usability testing, security testing, performance testing, load testing, usability testing, and so on, etc. and so on. finally a software product is delivered to the customer. So this is how the testing scenario occurs in the Scrum phases. Okay. Now let's quickly look at this regression testing. In Agile, I have already told you regression testing is very much important in Agile as it is based on responding to the changes made by the customers. Regression testing in Agile environment is practiced under two major categories called as SLRT and ERT. SLRT stands for the sprint level regression testing and ERT stands for the end-to-end regression testing. The sprint level regression testing, it focuses on testing the new functionalities which have been incorporated in the last production release. So since the last production release, so what new functionalities have been incorporated? So you have to now retest again, you have to perform regression testing on them. So this is called as sprint level regression testing. Another is the end-to-end regression testing. So this regression testing refers to the regression testing that incorporates all the fundamental functionalities. So what are the all the fundamental functionalities? So this testing refers to them. So end-to-end regression testing, it refers to the regression testing that incorporates all the basic functionalities or all the functionalities. So each sprint cycle is followed by a small span of SLRT. So that sprint level regression testing that stands for the SLRT stands for the sprint level regression testing. Each sprint cycle, it is followed by a small span of SLRT. The completed code, it has to go through further regression cycles but not released into production. So hello. So now the completed code, it goes through further regression cycles, but they are not released into production. After few successful sprint cycles, maybe typically 3 to 4 sprint cycles, the application goes through one round of end-to-end regression testing or ERT before being released to production. So this is how regression testing is carried out in Agile software development. Okay. Now let's quickly look at what are some of the challenges to Agile testing. What challenges you are facing? Frequent changes in Agile software may have crucial after effects, isn't it? I have already told you in Agile software, anytime or most of the time, whenever the customer comes with a change, you have to accommodate that. So frequent changes in Agile, you are able to change, but it is having some lateral effects. You have to do so many other things redo, which is quite difficult. So frequent changes in Agile may have crucial after effects if necessary steps are not taken. So there is a need to perform regression testing always whenever you are making any change using the effective techniques so as to reduce the size of the pending backlogs of the user stories and the test suite. The changes that are introduced later may have several unnoticed effects in the working system. Because if any change at the beginning during requirement specification or design, okay. But if you are making any change after the testing is over, so these changes which are introduced later, they may have several unnoticed effects in the working version of the system or the working version of the software. These effects must be controlled in a planned manner by the team members to deliver the quality or to deliver a good quality product. If you will go for the distributed Agile, again they become these challenges are more prominent. In distributed Agile, testing using pair programming practice may be cumbersome. So pair programming, I was just saying, one developer, one coder, or whatever the developer coder, then swap their roles. That is the pair programming, and in distributed environment, that will be again very much difficult. In distributed Agile, the testing using pair programming practice may be cumbersome, as the first team member of the pair may be at one location and the second member of the pair may be at the different location. So communication, interaction or collaboration becomes much more difficult. In this scenario, there are several other issues In these scenarios, the other issues or some other issues may arise, such as there may be language barriers, there may be cultural barriers, and there may be time zone barrier for effective communication among the team members of the sprint. For example, the coder is now in USA and the developer is in India, so they are night, but our daytime. So the time zone also puts barrier for effective communication among the team members. The one person have to wait till he wakes up, like that. So in this scenario, other issues may also arise, such as language barrier, cultural barrier, and time zone barrier for effective communication among the team members of the sprint. So quality may lag in software products. So as the number of sprints increases, the test suite size also increases. Hence, the management of the test cases also becomes a problem in a distributed environment. So these are some of the possible challenges to agile testing. These challenges might occur while you are performing agile testing. So let's do, there are many tools are available. I have listed one tool for agile testing. First of all, we can say one tool for this agile software development. Yesterday, Paranand was saying one tool is there called as Jira. Other tools are there like the Rex and so many others. So many tools, online tools are there. Please practice yourself. We don't have time to do practice, but yesterday I was checking, many tools are available for agile software development. Please have a look on them and if possible download and do some experiments. Now let's see at least one tool for agile testing. So one agile testing tool is named as Testrel is there. Testrel is a modern agile testing tool which is used to boost your software testing efforts. So this tool organizes the test cases, manages the test cases, tracks the test results, and measures the progress. This testing tool, Testrel, it also helps you meet your quality goals and complete your test on the right time. So we are not going to details of the tool. My objective was to at least give few names. So this tool I got, I have mentioned it. You can try yourself other tools and practice them yourselves. Finally, we'll look at some of the critical points for agile testing. So testing is very critical from agile perspective. Typically in the Scrum, there are many changes and the test team must be capable of handling huge regression testing cycle as one progresses from iteration to iteration. You have to perform so many regression testing activities. So for conducting these regression testing activities, you have to understand what are the requirements. You have to know how to create test cases which can be reused again and again. You have to know how to perform integration testing along with regression testing. So these are some of the key factors in successful testing. Okay. So let's quickly look at some of the successful key factors, some of the key factors in successful testing. So understanding of requirements or clear understanding of the requirements, creation or design of test cases which are reusable, integration testing along with regression testing, they are the key factors in successful testing. Okay. Some of the critical points for agile testing we have mentioned here. One is competencies or maturity of agile development and test team. How far competent you are, how much skill you are having, what is the maturity level of your development team and test team. That is very important. Everything, the successful development and the successful testing of your agile software depend on the competency of your development team and the test team, or the maturity level of the agile development team as well as the agile test team. Development and test process variability. So another critical point, the development is not just a fixed one. There are several variations. So there is heavy variability. So there is large variability in the development methodologies and the test processes people are following. So that is another critical point. Change management and communication. The management is changing from time to time. Communication methodology also changing from time to time, from person to person. How to address this thing, how to handle this thing. This is another critical point. Test process flexibility. You should not develop or you should not use a test methodology or process which is very rigid. You should be flexible. At any point of time, you should easily change it. Test process flexibility. So how far flexible your testing process is. This is another critical point for performing agile testing. Similarly, focus on the business objective. So you are developing an agile software for whom? For some client which is doing some business. So you have to understand what business is carrying out, what is the logic, what is the business logic. So please focus on the business objective of your client. This is another critical point for agile testing. Similarly, stakeholder maturity involvement. Not only this, not only just you have to know the competency or this what maturity of the development team and the test team. You have to know, you have to strengthen the maturity or involvement of all the stakeholders, not only the development team and the test team, but also different stakeholders are the product owners and these customers, development team members, testing team members, project manager, etc. These are the different stakeholders, even if the end user. So you have to improve the maturity or so you have to improve the maturity level or the involvement of all the stakeholders in this process. So these are some of the critical points for successfully conducting agile testing. So these points have been explained in these later slides. These are easy things, so we'll skip those things. Please have a look into this, all those points what we have presented here. They have been explained in the further slides. Please read them yourself. So these are some of the critical points for successful or yes, better agile software testing. Okay, so this is what I want to say. Thank you very much. Now let's see any question, please.
Sorry,
yes, please.
sir, it's a slide. Could you please go to the communication, change management and communication? Just a couple of before old slides.
Let's see. I'm going from begin. You just tell which one. This one or
no, towards the end.
Oh, towards the end. Okay. Communication, huh? This one?
Yeah. So this is very, sir, in the agile methodology, this is plays a very critical role in the development phase, because there are certain things it has not been communicated, and while you're demonstrating to the customer or the product owner, they come up with the changes. So and it is very critical, because we know something we have to deliver in certain duration, and there are some changes come into picture. This includes the financial aspect of the company also, because you are not supposed to develop something with free of cost. So
very correct, because you cannot change. Say customer is coming at the last moment and saying do these changes. By that time you have spent already lakhs of rupees, and when you will change it may require another lakhs of rupees. So that has to be properly communicated to the client. Client has to agree that yes, this additional amount I will pay. Then only you will go for making the changes. So obviously changes means the financial implications are there, and that has to be properly communicated to the client. Otherwise the developer will be in loss and they will not do.
Yeah,
not
so
only
other
here, I think, here some what documents should be signed, so that the later on the customer cannot say that no, I have not told this thing I have done, I will not pay this extra money. Yeah. So here communication change takes an important role. Very correct.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you.
So, yes. So the change is normally, in a way I told you, anytime customer is coming, you have to accept, but you have to also explain your financial implications. It flows from customer to development team and even goes back to the customer. There must be a very close communication between the development, test team, customer, and other stakeholders to adapt to the changing scenario. Not only that, you can add out, but what is the financial implication, that also need to be discussed and communicated to all the stakeholders. Requirement change must be welcomed, and all people together must decide how customer can be served best, along with the limited financial financial aspects. That also has to be very clearly stated. That has to be very clearly communicated. Okay, so all those points on these critical points have been explained nicely in these slides. Please have a look into this. All those slides, all those contents have taken from only this Naresh Chauhan book. Please have a look into that. So any other points need to be answered, please discuss. I will be happy to discuss. If there are any more questions, you can ask. Okay, so I think no more questions. Please prepare this thing accordingly. I'll be happy if you can download some Agile software development tools and some Agile testing tools and practice them. Due to lack of time, I am forced to skip these things, but you are all grown-up students, can practice also yourself. So I have requested Parmanand will take a lab class on this Jira, maybe on 23rd. Those who are interested can join. Okay.
Yes.
So there are no more questions. We can stop here. Now, any point of time, if you are having any question, you can call me, you can email me, and I think final students have already come to the campus. They can come to my room for any doubt. I will be happy to clarify.